to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis Rosa, and I'm your host. I have a special Black History Month episode where I want to highlight, honor, and showcase two very good friends of mine who I admire, who are doing a lot of things individually and in the business. They are both returning champions of the podcast, so you might have heard their names before, Chloe Moore and Lauryn Williams. I would like for them to introduce themselves, even though they need no introduction. So I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about their backgrounds, upbringing, and how they got to where they are today. So Chloe and Lauryn, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having us. So I guess I'll start. My name is Chloe Moore, and I'm the founder of Financial Staples, which is a virtual fee-only financial planning firm based in Atlanta, but I serve clients nationwide. And I mostly work with young professionals, late 20s to late 40s, and almost exclusively with tech employees. And a lot of those people have some form of equity compensation. So I know that was one of our first episodes that we did together, Luis, was equity compensation. But yeah, just a little bit about my background. I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama, and so I was raised
Roll
by
Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide. I went to University of Alabama, but yeah, I was raised by a single mom. My mom had me when she was 19, and so my grandmother raised me, and so I learned a lot of my financial lessons from her, and so that's kind of what made me really good with money, which I'd say I feel like I'm pretty good with money today because of her. And so yeah, I learned a lot of those great, lessons about just how to be responsible with your money, how to save for a rainy day. And just really, some of even just domestic things like how to cook and clean and, all those little old school things that my grandma taught me. But yeah, I think that kind of carried throughout my life. I paid my way through college, and I've just always been really good and responsible with money. And so that's kind of what led to me doing what I do today.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're one of the few people that graduated with no student loans?
Well, I only graduated it was like $7,800.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, well, some of it, I credit some of it to my mom just not making a lot of money. So I got grants. And then I also was smart. So I got scholarships. So the combination of the grants and the scholarships paid a good bit of it. And then I worked and paid for some of it myself. And so all of those things kind of helped out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I did was become a resident assistant, an RA, and they paid for room and board, sophomore year and beyond. So that was really helpful. I graduated with like $10,000 in student loans. And a lot of that was just me borrowing to go to Cancun on spring break.
At least you're keeping it real.
And I think too, just, we're a little bit, older millennials. So, so I think too, just the fact that like college was affordable when we went to school and it's not, what it is today. I think that helps.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that, Chloe. So Lauryn, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your upbringing.
All right. Let's see. Who am I today? I am a girl that was born I was born in Pittsburgh, but I was raised between Pittsburgh and Detroit because my parents split up when I was 3. So they kind of split me kind of down the middle. So kindergarten to 6th grade, I was in Detroit with my mother. And then 7th to 12th grade, I was in Pennsylvania with my dad. I come from a family of 5 sisters, 2 brothers. So a lot of interesting things going on. My mom says we put the fun in dysfunctional. And I went to the University of Miami. So yeah, what are you going to say there, Luis?
I don't know. You got me.
Oh,
what should I be saying?
Just go Canes. Go Canes is okay.
Go Canes. All right.
So I went to the University of Miami on a track and field scholarship, and little did I know that there was something cool in store for me. I was going to become a professional track and field athlete. So in 2004, I won the national championships in college. Also ran the second fastest time in the world so far for the year, and it just happened to be the Olympic year. So my life kind of took a turn overnight, and I became America's favorite to represent them at the Olympic Games in Athens, Greece. So I made the team, which was qualifying by getting the top 3. And then I got over to Greece and I earned a silver medal in the Olympics. And so the next 10 years I spent in sport. I went to 3 Olympic Games in track and field, and then I switched over and did 1 Olympic Games in bobsled. During the course of all of these things happening, I was trying to figure out money for myself. So I was a finance major in college and, always loved math, always loved money, but didn't really know what I was going to do with that beyond. And then I had this kind of, curveball thrown at me, and I had to decide how I was going to manage my money as a junior in college. And I realized I didn't know enough. College hadn't taught me everything I needed to know about personal finance, especially because that wasn't a personal finance major. So I hired a financial advisor. The problem was I didn't know that there were different types of financial advisors at the time. So, some of the industry are people who sell financial products and they earn a commission, and they don't have a lot of education beyond how to sell that product. And that's the kind of person that I ended up in the hands of. So I was 20 years old with $1 million of life insurance, even though I had no spouse.
No dependents.
No dependents, right? Whole life insurance, like that, exactly. And the very long story short is that, I didn't get a lot of financial advice. And so I felt the gap. It wasn't even so much that I even knew that, I didn't need the whole life or I didn't need these investment products per se. It was that I still didn't have answer to, some very basic questions. How much house can I afford? Can I buy a car? My dad always told me to get a used car, but I feel like I'm making enough to get a new car. And if I can, how much car can I afford? The basic kind of get started sort of things. So I fired that guy, hired another one, thought that was going to go better. It didn't. In fact, there was a big scandal around the company that gentleman worked with where a bunch of NFL players invested their money in a casino. The casino never opened, and those NFL players lost 100% of their money. So I was lucky in the sense that I did not have millions of dollars to be an investor in the casino, but I also was not well cared for at that firm either. So that is what prompted me to want to get into financial planning. And literally a Google search is what helped me find the CFP coursework. And I enrolled in it kind of blindly, just looking for answers for myself. And here I am 4 years, almost 5 years later now, after running my own company called Worth Winning, where I'm helping young professionals better organize their finances.
Wow. That's amazing. So yeah, now you're championing personal finance. I can relate to what you were saying, going back to the school days. There was not a personal finance course or major at all when I was going to school. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought it was something to do with money, but I didn't quite know what that was. So I majored in economics, which is super broad. So I graduated and still didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I started working for a CFP professional and finally got introduced to that world. And eventually I learned what a financial planner actually does. And it was very eye-opening, and growing up, there were terms that I just never heard growing up. My parents worked hard, and at best they had a savings account. They'd never had life insurance, a 401k, stocks, bonds. Like those were not conversations that we were having at all. So yeah, it was just a whole new world for me. And once I learned about it and the impact that it can have on people's lives, then it was a game changer, So yeah, I can appreciate that, which is why I made those mistakes going back to college where I was just borrowing on my student loans and really using some of that money to just go to spring break and stuff. Right? It's like, hey, you can get money back. Sign me up. Everybody else is doing it.
I got lucky that I stumbled on financial planning in college because I started as an athletic training major, but I've quickly realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. And so luckily, my counselor was a financial planner and kind of ran the financial planning program because we had a CFP Board Register program at Alabama. So I was able to easily transition into that. And then even with my jobs out of college, I was able to work at financial planning firms and really learn financial planning, from top to bottom.
See, so Chloe had it good compared to us, Lauren.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So now that you have gone through all that personal growth and growth in your own businesses, how do you define success? We'll go with Chloe.
When I think of success, I think more about, am I living my life, with purpose? Am I happy? Am I full of, gratitude? What am I doing to make the world a better place? I think those are the things that that make someone successful in my eyes. And so if I go to bed at night or in most nights, saying, did I help someone or did I change someone's life for the better? Did I have meaningful conversations with people I care about? Those types of things are really what I feel like are success.
Yeah, so it's values based and not necessarily driving a certain car or things like that. I love that. Good stuff. How about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I think I had to evolve to a place where I really, asked myself this question and understood what it meant to even be able to come up with an answer. I've never been a very materialistic person, but I definitely always thought of success in the terms of accomplishments. So, whether that be athletic accomplishments, being the smartest kid in the class, it was always like you've got to do more and be the best at this thing in order to be successful. And as I've, like I said, experienced different things in life, I've learned a lot more about it being about the journey more so than like reaching a destination. And so now I describe success as, being comfortable on the journey that I'm on. And like you said, being very values oriented as I pursue that journey. So what are the things that are my purpose? What are the values that are near and dear to my heart? And how can I be true to those while pursuing, just kind of my overall vision for life?
Yeah, that's super powerful. You make a great point because I think, I've been guilty of this where I've had my happiness be based on the completion of a certain accomplishment. And then you get there and it's either short-lived or you immediately raise the bar and and then it's like the happiness doesn't really last long.
Exactly. That is where the name of my company comes from. It was learned experience, like, how does it feel to stand on the podium? That's what people ask me all the time. And I'm just like, meh. And it's like, of course, I'm proud of that accomplishment and all that, all the work that went into it. But literally, it was a moment in time. You hear your national anthem, you get off the podium, and then it's like, what's for lunch? It is. So all these years have passed and all this time and all this buildup. And then, it's like, what's next? And if you keep putting your goals and your idea of what success is into, an accomplishment or a moment in time, you feel very let down in those moments. So you have to start realizing that it is, it sounds cliche, but it is in fact about the journey and all the people you meet along the way and all the relationships you build and all the places you get to see, and how you organize yourself around being able to make the most of those experiences.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we can help clients also see and live for themselves, because, we've been guilty of sometimes like, you get this new car, like you were mentioning, like, oh, I'm making money now. I want to drive this new car. But even that feeling is short lived, right? Like you're like in love with your new car at first. And maybe like a month later, it's just a car. I remember like being worried about where I parked when I first got my first car. Because you're already worried about things and stuff. Now, like, it's just a vehicle just to move around, right? So sometimes, yeah, we misplace our happiness, I think. I've been super guilty of that and continue to evolve on that. So thank you for sharing that. So, Chloe, if you had to go back in time and one thing that you wish you knew then that you now know after you've gone through all this in your life, what would that look like?
I mean, I'd say the biggest thing is just, or piece of advice that I give to myself is just embrace who you are and just stop caring what everybody else thinks. I think, just when I think about my childhood, I was always trying to impress, like my uncles or family members and, with good grades or just certain accomplishments. And, throughout college or just growing up, it's like I always wanted to prove something or to people. And yeah, I've definitely learned to embrace myself now and just not really care. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and even with some of the material things, it's like it's a way of proving yourself to people, or it's a way of kind of showing these accomplishments that you feel you need to show off, and not just being who you are, and understanding what's really important at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're so right. I think that's such a great place to be in because I think that problem has been amplified with social media. I feel lucky that when I was growing up, there was no social media, which makes me sound super old. But yeah, I remember when Google came out and all that. And I I remember when there were days that you didn't text because there was no such thing. Damn, that's old. But anyway.
We're all that old. So.
Yeah.
Where you had to press the button, like to get the C, you had to press the ABC three times.
Yep. 3 times, press number 2. Yeah. And in college, there was no Google. I had to go to the stacks and literally like check books out. And I had like a stack of books.
And microfiche? Do you remember microfiche?
Y'all, look, I don't remember all that. AOL online chat. That's about as far back.
Yes. You got the little disc in the mail with the router, whatever it was. I forgot, making that weird DSL. I don't know. Forget about it. It's crazy. But so I think that problem has been amplified with social media, where people always see like everybody else's best, right? The trips and whatever. And, a lot of that stuff sometimes isn't even real. Or if it is, you don't know what that person did to get to that place where they can show X, Y, Z, right? And yeah, that just makes it super worse, I feel like, for people to feel like they need to keep up, which can really put them in a downward spiral financially, for sure. So what about you, Lauryn? If it was, say, one thing that you can take from today and bring it back to your past that you wish you would have known when you were younger and getting started, what would that look like?
Oh, it would definitely be ask more questions and patiently wait for the answer. I think what I did not do enough of, you just, like you said, even the environment that I was around, separate of social media, you see things and you make assumptions about how people are living and what they have and, what they know and what they're, just all these assumptions and perceptions that I was making about others when, simply asking a question would have shut a lot of that down, and also opened the door for me to have a more transparent conversation with them. So I come from an environment where, money is a very secretive thing. And, just life in general, there's a lot that, like you said, just kind of puff your chest out, pretend you got it all together. And even as it pertains to training and exercise and things like that, like what's working for you on the track? We're still 2 different bodies. So if I can give you all my workout plans, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to become, a world-class athlete. It may help you get to your full potential, but ultimately I control what I do and you get to control what you do. And you're never going to do it exactly like me. We're not going to be in the same environment. We're not going to wake up at the exact same time every day. We're not going to eat the exact same thing. There's so many different variables. So don't be so stingy with the information. So I would have asked a lot of questions to ask a lot more, to learn more information from others. But because I was kind of taught to be stingy with my information, I also just assumed that people were going to be stingy with theirs and was afraid to ask questions, which left me without knowledge that I needed and left me vulnerable to make a lot more mistakes than I probably would have if I would have just asked someone.
Yeah. That is such a great point. And, because of your following and your standing in the financial planning profession, I know that a lot of people listening are probably financial planners themselves. One of the things I've learned, especially if there are any younger advisors that are looking to grow their practices or grow overall, is, I think the community that we are part of are very open and transparent, and that's one of the blessings I've had. Like I'm in a study group with Chloe, and it's like so refreshing to be able to ask for help and be like, hey, what does your onboarding process look like or whatever? I've made some changes recently because Chloe told me like, hey, you should do this, and that. I'm like, you know what, you're right. Let me go change that right immediately. And it's just amazing to me how sometimes just asking and you get, asking you shall receive, right? But if you don't, then most likely you're not going to get it. So don't be afraid to reach out for sure. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you both to tell me a little bit about, I know you're both doing the podcast jointly right now. So tell me a little bit about that and how it came about.
Yeah. So Lauryn and I, we talk a lot and we have just interesting conversations just about, whether we're talking to prospective clients or clients and just some of the things, or just people in the community, friends, and just some of the things that we see and hear, as far as financial advice that's out there. And then just even being on social media, we see people out there giving advice and some of it's good, some of it's not. So I think it was just born out of frustration from us, from seeing people get bad information. And so last summer, we actually did a Facebook Live series for, I think it was like 4 weeks during the summer to kind of debunk some of these myths that were out there and just, talk about some financial topics that are kind of hot topics or popular that people are getting bad information about. And so that's kind of where it started. And then, and then after that, Laura and I were just talking, and she asked me to be on her show to just kind of continue that conversation.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about the episode, like how often do they come out, and the name of the podcast and where they can find you?
Yeah, so the podcast is called Worth Listening, where the overall mission or vision of the podcast is to get people feeling more comfortable talking about money. So, like I said, as I said, for me, it's been a lot about secrecy and people not wanting to share information, not share knowledge. So I just wanted to create a space for people to come on and tell their money story, so that people know that they're not alone. The series that Chloe and I are doing is called Know Better, Do Better, and the series, like you said, is exactly like she said, where we encourage people to take a deeper look into some of these clickbaity articles, to some of these, trendy narratives that you're hearing all the time, and really understand what is it that you want for your financial life. And let me not just go say, I want to do real estate because I'm wasting money on rent, or I want to do investing real estate because I need passive income. These are all like terms that we're hearing, but what do they actually mean? And what do they mean for your life and what you actually want to accomplish? So we spend a lot of time trying to break those things down so that people have access to better information via people who are professionals, like you said, because there's just so much out there of people wake up and decide like, I'm going to make money off of this topic today. And they just create content around it. And it's really damaging some people's lives.
Yeah, so true. Sometimes just based on what's trending and some sort of clickbait to try and get as many clicks as possible. So yeah, I think there's a big void in the financial planning profession, and I'm glad that you're doing your best to fill it. So I'll be sure to put the show notes. I'll put a link to your podcast and your individual websites and all that. So speaking of the podcast and you running your own firms as well and your own individual lives, how do you find balance? Like, what are some of the practices that you use to get balance in your life, being that you're doing so much? So we'll start with Lauryn.
This is a hard one. So I am still a work in progress. I am doing a lot better. And I think I made a big improvement from 2019 heading into 2020. And I actually also think that the pandemic did a really good job of making me slow down and really implement some of the things that I said I wanted for myself. So what's been really good for me is time blocking and really understanding, okay, on these days I talk to prospects. On these days I do just these things. So I also do student loan planning. I talk to roughly about 17 people a week and help them understand their student loan plan better. And then, I talk to clients at this time on these days. And I also need to exercise, and I don't want to be unhealthy as a person. So where does that fit in? And now people have to get in around those times. And it works out really well to say, okay, this is what mode I'm in right now. This is the one thing I have to focus on. All right, we're moving on to this next mode. And now it's time for client meetings and you get in, client mode. So it's been really, really good to create work-life balance by using time blocking. And also like just taking my weekends back. I've definitely been that entrepreneur that works 7 days a week. I'm sitting in front of my computer, even on a weekend when everybody else is hanging out and chilling. It's like, that's the perfect time to catch up. And I realized like I still require downtime to be my best for clients. So I've started, taking time off, and sometimes it's even in the middle of the week, but really understanding that there is a work-life balance and it is attainable despite me trying to build something.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So let me ask you this. Was it hard for you at first to respect your calendar when it came to like your own things? Because I struggle with that. Like if I put, I'm going to work out, but then I get this email, I would quickly not work out and respond to that email.
It is still, like I said, very much a work in progress, but I'm doing much better because I know what it feels like when I do get that time. So like on Tuesdays, as an example, I work out in the afternoon and I have a 3-hour window. So I don't work out for 3 hours, but by the time I drive to the gym, shower after I get home from the gym, grab some lunch, I don't want to have to rush, speed to the gym, almost break my neck, run a red light, shower, put on or start the next client meeting in my workout clothes. So, I created a whole block there. And, like you said, it's in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. So people do, stuff is popping up. Your calendar's your inbox is getting full, and it's tempting all the time to be like, maybe I could just skip this workout and get all these things done instead. But I know like that I'm better when I do that workout. And I know I also, like I said, have health goals and initiatives, and that the more you put that off, the more round I get. And so Like I said, I don't always get it right, but I'm definitely starting to get it right more. And I mean, the hardest thing is getting the confidence to tell people no. They're like, can I talk to you later on this week? And I'm like, this week, I'm maybe about 3 weeks from now. And it's not because I'm, Beyonce but I do need to create a balance. And the more I say yes, the less time I create for myself. And then that's not honoring me. So I'm trying to work on that, like love yourself part of things.
Yeah, I struggle with that big time. I need to do way better. I mean, I have time blocks where like, all right, I'm not seeing clients this day, and people like, hey, can I talk to you? And I just very easily give in, but then I suffer, right? Because then I skip the workout and it doesn't help me be at my best. What about you, Chloe? What are some of the practices that you use for balance?
Yeah, it's interesting. I usually do like words for the year. I started doing that a couple of years back. And so 2 of my words for 2021 are balance and boundaries, because I feel like those are things that I need to work on. But I also do the time blocking. I meet with clients during certain days, or have other days for business work, or study group meetings, things like that, or just networking meetings. But I think the biggest thing is just trying to prioritize things that are important to me. Like working out is a non-negotiable for me. So I consistently work out most times on Monday through Friday. And nothing's going to stop me from doing that. So, and just even I have a small group that I'm in, with some girls from my church. And so, if it's that night that we're meeting, and someone wants to go out or hang out, like I say no, or just, spend having time to read or spend time with, friends. And so I try to prioritize those things that are important to me, and really set those boundaries to say no. And I'd say, as far as like working, just to make sure that I'm not working too much, I generally try not to work, over 40 hours a week. I try not to work much on the weekends. It's been a little bit harder with COVID, because I'm single. I live by myself. So it's easy just to go sit in my office and just work all day. and because it's like, I don't have a social life right now. So I can just work. But yeah, so I've struggled with it a lot more, now actually, than when I had, more social activities and things to do.
Yeah, Chloe doesn't play. For those listening, we met in 2019 at the XYPN conference, and she was doing like push-ups and jumping jacks in between sessions. I was like, man, this is serious right here.
Yeah, I love working out. So.
That was awesome. Yeah, that's great. So let me ask you this. Let's say that you were, I don't know, in an elevator with somebody is just going down. You got like 30 seconds. What are some things that you use as things that you could share with somebody that you would say, look, these are some of the principles that you should always kind of like abide by in your own financial life to set yourself up for success in the future? It could be whatever, something basic. Like, so what would you say, Chloe? What are some of the things that you usually kind of have either like a rule of thumb or just something that you always say, this is like sort of like a must for you to set yourself up right?
I'd say the most important thing is getting the right mindset. I think one thing that people don't understand is that building wealth is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And, there's all these, yes, there's all these, get rich quick schemes, and there's so many things out there, that, part of the reason why we started the podcast and our series. But, people come to us all the time. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Should I buy this stock? And, when you kind of step back and think about, okay, what are we trying to accomplish at the end of the day? And do you want this money to last? If so, some of the things that you have to do are not sexy. They're not going to be quick. You have to save for a rainy day, spend less than you make, understand where your money's going, invest over the long term. Some of those things are they're boring, but they work. And I mean, we've seen them work, throughout the time that we've all worked as financial planners. So I think those are the big things, just making sure that you have the right mindset to actually build wealth.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and it's the small little things that are the boring things that work, and you can equate it even like working out, right? Like you're not going to go to the gym one day and have a six pack, right?
Yeah.
And it's so easy to skip a workout, and doing one workout or not doing it, you probably won't see any difference that day in the mirror. So it's very easy to not do too, right? So, but those are the small little things, small daily increments that you can train yourself to have that habit, and they just have that ripple effect. So you can have compound interest in your life as well, right? So that's pretty insightful. Thank you for that. What about you, Lauren? What are some of your tips?
Chloe and I are cut from the exact same cloth, which is why we get along so well and why we're, partnering up on things, because we definitely have the same vision and values as it pertains to helping people better organize their finances. The one thing I would say is, like you said, this idea about getting rich slow. People just don't want to spend the time to get rich slow. Like, there's like GameStop is the thing that everybody's been talking about recently. When you ask the question, and this is why, like I said, asking questions is so important to me, do you have a budget? Do you have an emergency fund? Do you have these things? People just, they're not trying to get rich slow. So when a get rich quick thing comes along, they're like, whoa, this is going to save me from all the stuff I ain't been doing. And it would be much easier to just do a little bit every day, so that when something like a GameStop comes along, you're not stressed out. You're not trying to get on board because you already know you're in a good situation. And when you don't have that financial stress, because you're like, all right, I got my I'm gonna be okay if I never make $1 on GameStop. But just doing the itty bitty things on a regular basis goes such a long way. It's just so counterintuitive for so many people.
That makes so much sense. And, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, I always very often equate some analogies between like finances and either health or like fitness. So I was thinking about when you were talking about like, oh, maybe doing this and getting GameStop money will erase all the bad decisions I've made. And I thought of like crash diets and,
3-day juice fast. Like,
eat juice for 3 days and then you eat nothing but, whatever, and that's going to make it all better. But it's short-lived, right?
Yeah, because you don't have the tools. Someone might have actually got lucky on GameStop, has $50,000 that, overnight. You didn't have the literacy, you didn't have the tools, you didn't have a budget in place, you didn't have an emergency, all these things. And, that money floats right back out of your pocket because you didn't have an infrastructure. So it is very short-lived in most cases.
And I would say too, even thinking about mindset, I mean, it's so similar with, like you said, with finances and fitness. If you don't have the right mindset going into building wealth, if you make money fast, you're probably going to lose it fast. And same thing with, fitness. If you can lose a lot of weight on this crash diet, but you haven't adapted the habits and behaviors that it takes to live a healthy lifestyle and make this a lifestyle habit. And so you're probably going to gain the weight back.
Yeah, that's why most lottery winners end up broke. And I know, Lauren, you've probably seen this too with a lot of athletes, right? That they didn't have the discipline and the habits, and then they sign this big contract and they just end up all of a sudden put the whole family on payroll. And
Yeah, it's a tough thing because once again, it's misinformation. I get it all the time with my athlete clients. Well, so-and-so put their mother, and that's a business expense. No, it's an expense. An expense is money out. So either way, we're losing. I have to buy a house because that's a tax write-off. And so they hear a part of the story, but there's mortgage, there's property taxes, there's insurance, there's a down payment, there's the interest for the house, and they
money
don't
flowing
understand.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's so true. I've heard that so much. Oh, it's a tax deduction. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, even if you got 30% back in your taxes, you still spent the 70. So.
Yeah, it's like if you get a $20,000 loss that you can write off for your business, that means you lost a lot of money in your business.
Yeah. So that's why you got to tune in to Worth Listening, debunking all these myths, right? Well, and again, like I said before, I know that a lot of the people listening are financial planners as well because, you're so well known in the profession. So for those young planners out there that are listening, what would be some words of wisdom that you have as they start in their career looking to grow? So we'll start with Chloe.
Yeah, I'd say two things. The first one is just learn as much as you can. Typically, your first job out of college or in the industry, if you're a career changer, is probably not going to be your last and only job. So just, as you move around and try to find your place in this world of financial planning, just make sure that you can learn as much as you can from each experience that you have. And then I'd say the second one would be build relationships, focus on building relationships. whether it's relationships with peers, mentors, just coworkers. Just try to make sure that you're building relationships over time, because you never know, when those relationships, those people can help you. And it's, as we all know, it's not what you know. It's a lot of times it's who you know.
So true. Absolutely. Yes. So join groups, even if it's not something that's paid, maybe there's some Facebook groups out there like the Financial Planning Association that has one, so that you can build those networks for sure. What about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I would say, you got to find your fave five. So I love that. That was like a thing T-Mobile came out with at one point that it stuck with me. It's like, I think it's just the right amount, right? That's something else that's old that people don't remember. It's what Chloe said about building relationships. I think sometimes what we do, and I did as a career changer, was just try to cast the net really wide. Louise, can I pick your brain for a second? Chloe, can I pick your brain for a second? Jane, can I, and all over the place, you're picking your brain for a second instead of really trying to connect with the person, understand what they know, and let them try to, decide oh, I like Lauren. Let me, talk to her on a regular basis. Let me check in on her. Let me, tell her the things that I know beyond this 15-minute conversation, because we're all over the place, giving everybody 15 minutes of our time. And what real difference are you making in those 15 minutes? And it's been a really hard thing for me now that I'm more established to start turning those kind of opportunities away, because you definitely want people to continue to get into the industry. You want them to better understand. But I realized how low yield that was for me, and how much better a yield I got when I, spent a little bit of time with someone. We connected genuinely, and then I followed up with them regularly, because it is an investment of time on both people's sides. So you just want 15 minutes of my time or 30 minutes of my time all the time. That I at one point was doing roughly 10 of those a month, and sometimes as many as 5 per week. And so you do 30 minutes 5 times with somebody, and then you never talk to them again. It's sucking up quite a bit of your regular work hours that you got to take care of things. So why not take your time and invest in 2 or 3 young planners? If you're a young planner, why not take your time and invest in getting to know for 3 or 4, or in my case the fave 5 older people or more established planners, so that you have someone to go to as you continue to build and have that relationship with that doesn't mind saying hey, can we talk for a little bit? Chloe doesn't have to make an appointment to get on my calendar. She just texts me, because we have those relationships. So I think that's an important aspect of things.
Chloe's got the red phone, huh? Direct.
I made the cut.
That's so true, Lauren. And, I think some of those relationships could really start when you go to these conferences that are geared towards NexGen planners and stuff like that. I mean, that, I met Chloe or one of them. And then I think you and I first met at the CFP Diversity in person, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And then you just build on those, right? So, but it's true. It's it's a consistent thing that benefits both, so it's not just picking somebody's brain for 15 minutes. So it's very powerful. I have a few more questions, but if people want to find you on social media, Chloe, where are you? Where do you live on social media? What's your favorite method? How can people find you?
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite method of social media because I don't like social media that much. But I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So I'd say you can find me there, Chloe Moore. And then also on Twitter and Facebook, it's at Fin Staples, and Instagram is at Financial Staples.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm with you on that. If I could, I would rather not be on social media. It's just such a time suck,
You all are baby boomer trapped in millennials' bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I was not a business owner, I probably would not be on Facebook or Instagram, none of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I actually joined all those networks after I got my business. What about you, Lauren?
I don't have a preferred method either. I am everywhere, and I try to do a little bit everywhere. I have invested in a social media manager to kind of help me a little bit with making sure I'm not leaving stuff hanging out in the balance. A lot of people reach out via LinkedIn. A lot of good opportunities come there. I would say the place that I am the most is probably Instagram. But I am also, like you said, even though I was getting on you all, not big on social media. So I'm hard to get back to. I don't know what to post. I don't know what to say. I'm actually very shy, extreme introvert. If you look at the like Myers-Briggs scale. And so, yeah, I do a little bit everywhere. You can find me on all the platforms at Worth Winning or Worth_winnings, but none of them are my favorite per se.
I feel that. So where do we go from here? What can we expect from Lauryn and Chloe in the next, 2, 3, 5 years? Is there anything you're working on? Any vision that you have that you want to see come to fruition in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always had this long-term vision. It's morphed a little bit over time, but generally I've had this long-term vision of working with my clients one-on-one, and then also doing some one-to-many, whether that's group courses, volunteer work, teaching, speaking, things like that, and then also doing one-to-many, which is just creating content, educational content for the masses. So I think as I'm getting to the point where I'm filling up my bucket with my one-on-ones, I want to work on some group education and some things that where I can help people maybe at a lower income level who could still afford to pay something, but maybe they can't qualify as a full one-on-one paying client. And so I know Lauryn and I've talked a little bit about working on some things together for just for helping groups or putting more good education out there. So that's something that I'm working on actively.
That's great. What about you, Lauryn?
I am trying to find someone to marry me. And I'm not going to say anything about how this person looks, that it's a girl that runs her own business. I should say I'm trying to get them to marry me in my business. So to be clear. But I honestly never really planned on running a business by myself. The reason this business was born, like I said, was out of necessity for myself. And when I decided to start it, I was actually actively looking for a partner because I knew I was new to the industry. I knew there was a lot that I didn't know, but I also felt that it was very urgent that I create something to be able to serve my peers. So I had this passion inside, and I knew that this was now the vehicle that I needed to use to, be able to affect the lives of the people around me. But I knew what I didn't know, and I knew that I'd be better if someone else was around. I just didn't find that person in the timeline of the urgency of which I felt. And so I've been very lucky to be able to serve a lot of people, help a lot of people over, like I said, we're turning 5 actually, I think in March. So over the last 5 years, but I have never gotten rid of the desire to put more heads together because I know that when we work together, we are better. We can be more efficient. We can reach more people. And so I am trying to find someone to help. She's laughing because she knows, right? To marry in the next 3 to 5 years, businesses with, so that we can go out and crush it together.
Yeah, I think that is so powerful what you said. Building a business out of necessity, I feel the same exact way. If you asked me 2 years ago, what were my goals, right? Having my own firm was not on the list. Like I never sat there and actually dreamed of owning my own RIA, and I feel like it did come out of necessity just because of the certain type of people I wanted to work with that I felt were just not being served at all, right? Or underserved. So I can completely understand that. Yeah. And, I get it. Like we're all running our own practices and probably duplicating efforts, right? That could be just combined and be more efficient and reach more people and have more impact. So I get it. So hopefully that partner is out there listening and open to possibilities.
Hopefully she'll swipe left at some point. Is left the right way? I don't know. I'm not on any date apps. Or you swipe right? You swipe
I have no
left,
idea.
the person, right? Chloe, which way do you swipe?
I have commitment issues, but I'm coming around.
I'm gonna wear her down, y'all. I'm gonna wear her down.
I think you might have touched on this at the beginning in your intros, but I always like to ask, for those listening and for myself, tell us something that that maybe people out there don't know about you that you would like to share that maybe they might even be surprised to hear? Any talents that we don't know about? Chloe.
Oh yeah, so I think you want me to talk about my musical talent.
Yes.
But yeah, something that a lot of people don't know is that I am a classically trained musician. Caveat, I haven't played in several years, but I grew up playing the piano. I played from elementary school all the way through high school. I used to compete in classical competitions. And then I also played the clarinet and the bass clarinet for about 4 years.
Wow. Now, Lauren, did you know that?
I definitely didn't know that. Right.
See?
Look, I'm write this down so I know for the next date.
That might be a way in right there.
Right. Exactly.
That's
for me,
awesome.
I would say I really love to cook all sorts of things. And I don't do a lot, like I said, of posting about cooking or posting food items or things like that. But I also love to eat. I'm currently crab is my favorite food, and I cook crab occasionally. Usually it's like the whole blue crabs, but I've been experimenting with crab dishes. So I made a really awesome crab soup recently. And then also like, how people make lobster rolls. I've made a crab roll that was amazing. So that's my new kick that I'm on is crab dishes.
Wow. Well, feel free to use me as a test taster or, taste tester or whatever. I'm down with that. I like the eating part. I wish I like to cook. I actually see cooking as a chore. And I really hope one day it somehow becomes something I enjoy doing, because I do like to eat, but I don't like to prepare the foods that I eat. It's a bad combination, without a doubt.
Yeah, I love to cook too. Like it's it's a big thing for me. And I have way too many, talking about buying a lot of things. I spend most of my money on like food and like serving platters, and I have a bunch of wine glasses and plates. Like I can put together a party for like 20 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm into kitchen gadgets. That's definitely my thing. Like if there's a special way to cut things, a special way to do this, a blender, whatever, I've got all the things.
That's funny. Like, wow, look at that. An avocado peeler.
Right.
Oh, that's so funny. Wow. Well, thank you both for sharing and taking time. Lauren, I know you're in Texas right now, right? So you were dealing with some crazy stuff with the weather and everything. So I'm glad you were able to join us, and thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, we have made it through the week. It is sunny out now. There's the snow is melting. That was the only way it was going to disappear because we don't have shovels or plows in Texas. So we are on the other side of this, hopefully. Knock on wood.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Well, thank you both very much. I look forward to listening to this episode again because this was amazing. I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you sharing your insights and your stories with us. So for those of you listening, we'll be posting this on onmywaytowealth.com and also available on all major podcasting platforms. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.